If you struggled with the breathing assessment, laying on your back, you notice that you tend to breathe into your chest. Perhaps you have a little combination of the two. One breath, you can kind of get the belly to expand. On the next one, it's your chest, and it kind of goes back and forth. Some of the breaths are mixed between the two, that type of thing. Or if you think that your breathing is just generally weak and you want to strengthen it, that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so understand that, as we mentioned, those breathing muscles are deep core stabilizers, which means that when you are standing, they have to multitask, right? They have to act as core stabilizers to hold you up against gravity, and then they also have to breathe. And of course, the more dynamic your body becomes in movement, the more they have to multitask, breathe, and perform stability throughout different scenarios. So if you're struggling with getting the breathing pattern right, let's not make things super complicated at first. Let's make it as simple as possible. Focus, get our nervous system having to do really nothing but work on the breath, and then incrementally we can make it more and more challenging. Okay, so you want to begin simply by laying on your back, closing your mouth unless you really have to breathe through your mouth because you have a deviated septum or something else blocking your nose, preferably breathing through your nose, in and out, and just lay on your back and just feel the belly expanding to the capacity that you are capable, okay? And just make a conscious effort of breathing in, of making your belly stick out all the way around, and exhale. And as far as timing is concerned, you could certainly do a tempo, something to the effect, or approaching like a 4-1-4-1 tempo, something along those lines, to give yourself a total of a 10-second breath. 5-1-5-1 if you wanted to slow it down just a little bit. So 5 seconds in, 1 second hold, 5 seconds out, 1 second hold, that type of thing. So that way we make sure that we're also programming our nervous system not to hyperventilate and also to access the parasympathetic nervous system, so that we actually can start to relax. A lot of the time when you are breathing, you have an inverted breathing pattern chronically, it's because you are running around in fight or flight all the time. So doing breathing exercises can help bring you back into that parasympathetic, that calming state, and helps you to regulate your breathing, both the pace of the breathing or the speed and the tempo, as well as the pattern. Okay, we want to get that breathing pattern. So lay on your back, learn how to breathe into your belly with no distractions, and close your eyes. And just fill the belly and let it out. And when you can do this every single time, and you know every single breath looks and feels the same, and you don't have any confusion in that pattern, you don't go to the chest every second or third breath, your breaths are all in the belly for at least the first 2/3 of the breath, then you say, okay, all right, let's do it standing. Let's progress this. Let's do it standing. And if you're able to do that, now the core is multitasking. And now if you're able to do it standing, by the way, now we're also able to take our practice into while we're cooking dinner, or while we're at our standing desk at work, or anything like that. But stand up and try to do the same thing. If this is something that you're able to perform while you're consciously focusing on it, then we've succeeded, we've progressed you. And just make sure that you can do this in various scenarios, okay? Now, what we can do is we can also add a balloon to our practice. And what the balloon does, it doesn't really go so far as to correct the pattern, but it can go a long way to strengthening, especially the primary muscle of exhalation, which is your transverse abdominis. So extremely important deep core stabilizer muscle. It sits like a corset or like a weight belt that you see people wearing in the gym. It covers that same location, and when it contracts, it makes the waist smaller, and that's actually how it is a muscle of exhalation. It shrinks the belly that just expanded on the inhale. It drives the internal organs up into the chest as the lungs start to exhale and get smaller. And what we're going to do is we're going to integrate at each step of our progressions inflation of balloons. So when you lay down and you get your breathing pattern correct, now of course you're breathing out of your mouth, little note, but just before you progress to standing, get out your balloons. And inflate. And as you could see, even as I did that, even though I've done this a lot of times, I just lightly put my hand on my stomach so I could feel the breath coming into the belly. And this is essentially like a resistance band. Think about a resistance band. It's even made out of the same material. It's a resistance band for that transverse abdominis, for that deep core stabilizer muscle, that primary muscle of exhalation. So you can strengthen your breathing pattern using balloons and blowing up balloons. Normally what I would say is blow it up, however many breaths, usually 2 to 4 is normal to get the balloon fully inflated. Deflate it, let it out, blow it up again, deflate it, let it out, blow it up again. By the time you've blown it up 3 times, toss it out, because it starts to get real soft and it loses that resistance and that elasticity. So then you can grab another balloon. I say go through maybe like 3 balloons that way. So you're filling a balloon up about 9-10 times, somewhere in that range, in each practice, right? You could do that once or twice a day, and it just helps to strengthen that exhalation. It also gives you a moment to really focus. So I think it's more than just the resistance, but it's also just the focus on the exhalation and really squeezing out all of the air out of your lungs. And as you squeeze it all out, feeling that transverse abdominis engaging, that's really the benefit to the balloon. It's not just the resistance, it's the heightened sense of engagement that you get from these muscles. I also sometimes will double up a balloon, so I'll stick a balloon inside a balloon, and that makes it much more difficult. And if you've ever seen like old-time strongmen, they would actually blow up hot water bottles, which is like, seems crazy, but they would actually blow up hot water bottles. So there you go. But I do recommend, as you correct your breathing pattern, by laying on your back and just focusing, also work on strengthening it simultaneously, and balloons can be a wonderful way to do that, okay? Then you move up to standing. Then once we finally progress to more integrated body weight movements, you can also take the balloons with you. So as you learn how to squat, bend, lunge, and other movements, once you've learned that particular movement body weighted with no sort of external or additional things to focus on, no additional stressors, once you've kind of got the basics of that movement down, now grab a balloon and perform that squat. So here we go. I think I've got another one. There we go. So as you're integrating, or as you're learning more integrated body weight movements like squat, bend, lunge, along the way, just grab a balloon and make sure you can own that breath with that movement. Like that, okay? And I always feel like at the top of that movement, boy, I really inflated that one. At the top of that movement, you can really feel the engagement of those core stabilizers on that exhale as you come out of that squat. Do it the same thing with the bend pattern and the lunge pattern. And this way we're tying in that strong breath with the pattern, And also, as we learn to weightlift, there will be a forced exhalation like what we're doing with the balloon. So it's going to carry over. Our breathing is going to be super important. It's going to be super important from an injury perspective. It's going to be super important from a performance perspective. Okay, so practice this. Constantly go into, there's no equipment needed for this. You're standing your computer, you're working on a project. Go into big belly breath through the nose. Exhale all the way. And when you get to the end of the exhale, engage pelvic floor, engage transverse abdominis. Relax and inhale. Fill the belly. Exhale. Engage. Pelvic floor up. TVA engaged. Tight corset. Waist small and cinched. Relaxed. Inhale. Okay? So it's super simple exercise that you can do at any point in time throughout the day. You don't need any equipment. Come back to it as much as possible. Get those deep core stabilizers firing, get them firing voluntarily, and eventually they'll be firing it automatically with your daily 20,000 breaths, okay? So there we go. There is your curriculum. That's your exercises for breathing. Remember, you don't need a program for this. We're greasing the groove. You don't need Monday, Wednesday, Friday reps and sets. What you need to do is do this every day, as frequently as possible within reason, with the understanding that you cannot overtrain these exercises, or the likelihood of you doing that is so incredibly minute that you'd have to be ignoring a lot of warning signs beforehand to get to that point. I don't even know how that would be possible. So frequency trumps intensity. Frequency and throughout the day, we want maybe 1 to 3 times a day, depending upon how much work you need to do. And you could do this 7 days a week, just bringing your focus to your breath, blowing up a few balloons, and then remember to integrate these things into your training practice as you progress. I will see you in the next lesson.